I joined a gym 3 months ago. At the time, it was just a place to build my strength, to make myself better. It was a typical decision for someone trying to get into shape. A place where you could lose yourself in your workout, zone out to your music, and forget about everything else. I never imagined that the place that was supposed to make me stronger would end up breaking me mentally in ways I never thought possible. The gym I went to wasn't huge, but it wasn't small either. It was quiet at night, especially around 10 p.m. when most people had finished their workouts. I liked it that way, just me and a few others, working through our routines without distractions. I always wore my wireless headphones to block out the outside noise. I hated the wired ones. They always tangled up, pulling me back every time I tried to move. The wireless ones gave me freedom, or so I thought. I was on the leg press machine, pushing through a set of 20 when it happened. The music in my headphones began to crackle. I stopped, wondering what was going on. The sound distorted, like static from an old radio. My heart skipped a beat. I knew what that meant. My phone had disconnected from the headphones. I looked down at the small compartment on the machine where I had placed my phone. It was empty. Panic surged through me. I felt my blood run cold as I quickly scanned the gym. There were only a handful of people left in the entire building. At the far end, there was a large, sweaty man, eyes glazed over as he sat hunched over on a bench, his attention focused on his phone. He didn't even seem to notice me glancing at him. But then I saw another figure, a thin, pale man, his eyes darting nervously around the gym as he slowly paced from one machine to another. I didn't want to believe it, but something was off. My phone was gone. Someone had taken it. I tried to reason with myself, telling myself it couldn't be that bad, that maybe I just misplaced it. But deep down, I knew I had to confront the situation head on. I walked over to the guy sitting on the bench, his earbuds in, blocking him from hearing anything around him. I tapped him on the shoulder. When he turned to face me, he looked at me with a confused expression, as if he didn't want to be bothered. I asked, trying to remain calm, "Did you take my phone?" He stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment, his eyes flicking to the side as if looking for a way out of the conversation. Finally, he pulled one earbud out and muttered, "No." The way he said it, it was wrong. There was something in his tone that made my skin crawl. I pushed further. "Did you see anyone walk by recently? Anyone near my machine?" He just shook his head and gave me a dismissive shrug, the hint of attitude in his voice. "No," he repeated, like he didn't care. Something was definitely wrong with this guy. I wanted to say more, to confront him about how shady he was acting, but I just turned away and walked off, my mind racing. I couldn't let this go. I went straight to the front desk. The employee behind the counter seemed unfazed, but I was desperate. "I need you to check the security footage. Someone took my phone." The worker didn't look too thrilled, but agreed to help. He clicked away on the computer, his fingers tapping quickly across the keys. The seconds felt like minutes. Finally, he turned the screen toward me and pressed play on the footage. I gasped. There, clear as day, was the man I had just spoken to, taking my phone off the machine and slipping it into his pocket. The video didn't lie. He had stolen my phone right in front of me. The footage was damning. I ran out of the gym, adrenaline pumping through my veins, but when I reached the parking lot, the man was already gone. There was no sign of him anywhere. My heart sank. I knew then that he was smart, calculated. He had taken my phone, and now he was gone without a trace. The worst part? I had disabled my phone's passcode feature recently. It was easier to access everything without it. But now, that decision was haunting me. My entire life, my texts, my emails, my photos, everything, was in the hands of a complete stranger. I hurried back inside, asking the employee to track down any information about the thief. When he checked the system, his face drained of color. There was no record of the man ever checking into the gym. No membership, no name, nothing. The footage revealed the man wandering the gym, glancing over his shoulder as though he was looking for someone, but there was no reason for him to be there if he wasn't a member. It didn't make sense. I insisted that the employee report everything to the police. The employee agreed, but his tone was skeptical. like he didn't think anything would come of it. I left the gym that night with a gnawing sense of dread in my stomach. The next day, I called my best friend Tom. I needed someone to talk to. I needed him to understand why I wouldn't be responding to texts for a while. But when Tom answered, his voice was frantic. "You're not kidding, right?" he asked, panic rising in his voice. "Someone's been texting me from your phone, saying it's you, but I know it's not you. They even told me to leave the back door open for you tonight." I froze. My mind raced. How was this possible? How could they be using my phone? I had no answers. Tom showed up at my house a few minutes later, and we pored over the text messages. They started innocently enough, with the person on my phone pretending to be me. They asked Tom if they could stay at his place, claiming they had a fight with their parents. Then, the text became more bizarre. "Can you leave your back door unlocked?" the message read. "I'll be coming in late. Don't want to wake you." Tom, trusting it was me, agreed and went back to sleep. He didn't know what was about to happen. We rushed to Tom's house, and as he showed me the footage from his security cameras, I could barely breathe. The man from the gym, he was there. The same guy. He walked right through the back door, as if he knew it would be unlocked. He moved stealthily through the house, collecting valuables from every room, shoving them into his pockets. He even went upstairs, checking rooms. When he entered Tom's bedroom, I could hear Tom's breath catch in his throat. The man was in the room for about 20 seconds before he left, leaving the door slightly ajar, as if mocking us. We sent the footage to the police, but as the days went by, the silence from them grew deafening. There were no updates, no further leads. The man had disappeared completely, leaving nothing behind but fear and questions. 3 months have passed since that night. Tom and I are still on edge, constantly checking our doors and windows, knowing that the man who took my phone and ransacked Tom's house is still out there somewhere. I haven't heard anything from the police. They've done nothing. Whoever that man was, he got away with it. And now, every time I walk into that gym, I feel his eyes on me. I don't know when he's watching, but I know he's out there waiting. I go to a 24-hour gym in my town, and for the most part, it's pretty quiet. It's the kind of gym that sees a steady stream of regulars during the day, but once the clock strikes midnight, it turns into a ghost town. The emptiness makes it feel like a place that's not quite alive, a place suspended in time. One night, I had to cover a late shift at work, so I didn't get off until 11 o'clock p.m. I figured I'd head straight to the gym and get in a late-night workout. When I arrived, the parking lot was nearly empty, and the gym was, unsurprisingly, silent. There was no music blaring, no chatter, just the soft hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. I walked in and quickly realized that I was the only one there. For a moment, it felt strange to be the only person in the whole gym, but I quickly shrugged it off. I started on the treadmill, and for the first 10 minutes, everything was peaceful. It felt good to have the space all to myself. That peace didn't last long. A few minutes later, I noticed a figure in the corner of my eye. A man wearing a hoodie and a beanie was quietly lifting weights across the room. I wasn't sure how long he'd been there, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of discomfort when I saw him. He wasn't just working out. He was watching me. His gaze was fixed, unnerving. Every time I looked over, I caught him staring at me with a cold intensity. It was subtle, but it was there. His eyes tracking my every move. My heart rate quickened. I tried to ignore it, but his gaze felt like a weight pressing down on me. It was as if he was challenging me somehow. I tried to focus on my workout, but the whole time I felt his stare burning into me. It was hard to ignore. Every time I'd glance up from the machine, he was still watching. At one point, I caught his eyes again, and I felt something shift in the air. It was like he was waiting for me to approach him, to do something. I couldn't take it any longer. I grabbed my stuff and moved to a different area, hoping for some peace. I headed to the free weights section at the back of the gym, hoping I could work out in solitude. But even there, I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being watched. I started doing bicep curls, trying to focus on the mirror in front of me. That's when I saw it. The man in the beanie, crouching behind one of the chest press machines, peeking through the small gap between the weights. His face was barely visible, but it was unmistakably him, staring at me. I froze for a moment, my pulse hammering in my chest. He wasn't even trying to be subtle anymore. He knew I had seen him. When I made eye contact, he quickly pulled back out of sight, but I could still feel the weight of his presence. Something about it felt wrong. I didn't know what to do. My body was telling me to run, but I didn't want to seem like I was overreacting. So, I walked toward the front desk, asking the girl there if she could tell the man to either stop staring at me or leave. She glanced down the gym aisle but didn't see anyone. I told her to come with me to the back section so we could check together. She followed me reluctantly, clearly uncomfortable with the idea, but when we arrived at the back room, he wasn't there. In fact, there was no sign of him at all. It was like he had disappeared. The gym was silent again, as if he had never been there. The girl seemed a little embarrassed, but I felt a deep unease creeping into my gut. I thanked her and went back to working out, but the sense of dread only grew. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. After another 15 minutes, I decided to call it a night. I waved goodbye to the girl at the front desk and walked out to my car. The parking lot was still empty, and the air felt cold, even though it wasn't that late. I could hear the sound of my footsteps echoing off the pavement as I made my way to the car. Just as I was about to unlock my car door, I heard it. Footsteps. But these weren't the calm, measured footsteps of someone walking to their car. No, these were frantic, pounding footsteps, like someone running toward me. I spun around, panic rushing through me as I scanned the darkness. At first I didn't see anything, but then, there he was. The man from the gym. He was sprinting toward me, his hoodie and beanie making him look like a shadow. My breath caught in my throat. I stood frozen, unsure of what to do. My heart was racing in my chest, and all I could think was, I need to get away. The man was getting closer, his footsteps thudding against the concrete as he neared. I dove into my car, slamming the door shut behind me. My hands were shaking as I fumbled with the lock, but I managed to press it down just in time. He reached for the door handle, trying to yank it open. I slammed my foot on the gas, jerking the car into reverse just as he kicked at the door. The tires screeched as I sped backward, nearly running over his foot in the process. My pulse was still hammering in my ears as I threw the car into drive and sped out of the parking lot, leaving the man in the dust. I didn't stop until I got home, but when I got out of the car, I saw the damage. Dents and scratches marked the side of the door, evidence of the man's rage-fueled kicks. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the events over and over. I should have called the cops. I should have warned the girl at the front desk that she was alone, that someone dangerous was out there. But I didn't. I selfishly told myself I would never go back to that gym at night again. But the worst part? I don't think he was ever really gone. I think he'd been watching me the whole time, waiting for the right moment to make his move. I used to work nights at a 24-hour fitness gym in New Jersey, and it was a job that always felt like a strange blend of loneliness and tension. The graveyard shift was something I had a love-hate relationship with. On one hand, there were very few people who came in during those hours, which meant less chaos, fewer people checking in, and no one to bother me while I sat behind the front desk. The silence was almost soothing. But on the other hand, those late-night hours stretched on forever, and I found myself sitting there, doing nothing, while everyone else was tucked in their beds, oblivious to the world around them. It was the kind of job that made you think a lot of strange things might happen. But realistically, what could go wrong in a gym, right? But it was the dead of night, and it's funny how the mind plays tricks in the darkness. For the longest time, I believed nothing out of the ordinary ever happened. Until one night, that all changed. I was sitting at the counter, mindlessly flipping through a magazine, when a strange noise caught my attention. I glanced up. There was a man in the gym. He was pacing slowly, walking from one end of the gym to the other, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He wasn't working out. He wasn't doing anything. Just walking, looking around. He passed the divider wall that separated the front and back sections of the gym and disappeared from my view. I didn't think much of it. I went back to my magazine, my mind wandering. 10 minutes passed and I completely forgot about the man. And then, without warning, the power went out. Everything. All at once. The lights flickered and then died, leaving me in complete darkness. The music, the usual hum of the gym's machines, everything went dead. The silence was suffocating. My heart skipped a beat. It was so dark I couldn't even see my own hand in front of my face. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight and shone it around the room, trying to orient myself. I knew that the power box was located somewhere in one of the back rooms of the gym, near the storage area. I also knew that the one guy working out, the same guy who had been pacing around the gym, was somewhere back there. My stomach churned as I grabbed my phone and flashlight and made my way toward the back section. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking slightly. There was no answer. I called again. Nothing. I walked deeper into the darkness, the beam from my phone's flashlight trembling in my hand. The silence was deafening, and every step I took seemed to make the shadows feel heavier. The gym, which I was so used to in the daylight hours, now felt unfamiliar, threatening. The equipment stood in eerie stillness, casting long, distorted shadows along the walls. I reached the back storage room where I thought the power box might be. My flashlight swept over the area, but there was nothing. No power box, just more storage. I had no idea what I was looking for. I flicked every switch on the wall, hoping something would bring the lights back on. But nothing happened. Frustrated and unnerved, I realized I couldn't fix it. The only thing I could do now was lock up, leave, and wait for the owner, Kathy, to deal with it in the morning. But first, I had to find that guy. I started checking every inch of the back section. I looked behind every machine, every janitorial closet, even the narrow hallways. Nothing. He wasn't there. Where could he have gone? There was only one place left to check: the women's bathroom. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, my flashlight cutting through the dark. "Hello? Are you in here?" I called again, my voice barely above a whisper. There was no answer, only the sound of my own breathing. I carefully swept the flashlight around the room, scanning every corner, every stall. The light landed on the farthest stall. It was closed. I froze. Something felt off. The silence in the bathroom was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat thumping in my ears. That's when I heard it. Breathing. But not just any breathing. Sickly, ragged, heavy breathing. My skin prickled with unease. It sounded like something wasn't right. Something was wrong in that bathroom. I could feel my pulse quickening, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I knelt down, my hand trembling as I shone the flashlight under the stall door. What I saw next made my stomach turn. There were legs standing just behind the stall door. 2 legs, barely inches away from my face. The breathing was louder now, and I could hear the unmistakable sound of a faint chuckle, a dry rasp that made my blood run cold. Without thinking, I jumped to my feet and bolted out of the bathroom, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what was happening. I was too terrified to process it fully, but I knew one thing. I wasn't alone. I ran back to the front desk, my mind racing. I grabbed my phone and tried calling Kathy, but it was well past midnight. She wasn't answering. I left 2 urgent voicemails. My only option was to call the police. "I think there's someone in the gym," I said, my voice barely steady. "I'm sure he cut the power." I hung up, feeling a pit form in my stomach. The silence around me was deafening once again, and I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. The weight of the darkness seemed to press in on me from all sides. Suddenly, I heard a loud metallic crash from across the gym. It sounded like one of the weights had been dropped. I grabbed my flashlight and shined it across the gym, my breath catching in my throat. I saw something. Someone. Moving between the machines. A figure. barely visible in the flickering light. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. "You need to leave. We're closed." The figure didn't respond. It just kept moving. Closer. Slowly. Almost as if it were teasing me. I took another step backward, shining the light in the direction it was walking. Then, at the edge of the light, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A face. Just for a moment. A face staring directly at me from the shadows. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The figure had vanished into the darkness again, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. Soon, I saw the blue and red lights flashing through the windows of the gym. Police. I rushed to open the door, practically ripping it off its hinges. The officer stepped inside, shining his own flashlight around the gym. He walked through the entire building, including the bathrooms and closets, before returning to me and saying, "It's empty. Whoever it was must have left through the back door." I locked up and went home that night, but sleep didn't come easy. I knew what I had seen, and it wasn't a figment of my imagination. The next morning, Kathy and I checked the camera footage. We reviewed the moments just before the power went out, searching for the man I had described. But there was nothing. No footage of him entering the gym. No footage of him pacing, or working out, or even walking around. The cameras showed nothing. Kathy gave me a strange look, but I knew she didn't believe me. I wasn't sure I believed myself, but I knew what I saw. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. Someone was there. I know it. And to this day, I'll never forget the sickening feeling that washed over me when I was alone in that gym with him. Whatever it wasn't human, and I'll never be able to explain it.